All right, good afternoon again. You do not need your computers. Shut them down. They will not be plugged in for this class. Good afternoon, everybody. No? Okay. So, hello, everybody. I think everybody here has met me at least once for something, correct? Wonderful. All right. So everybody has their number. Okay. Everybody has the lab assignment sheet in front of you. What's your name? Everybody has their number. Everybody has their lab assignment. Right? So let me start by saying this. There's a couple of things that it takes to be a OT in the psychosocial setting. You have to be creative. You have to be flexible. You have to have empathy. Not sympathy, but empathy. Okay? A lot of things that we're going to do this summer is working on that. And most of all, for an OT in any practice setting, is being able to demonstrate clinical judgment, clinical reasoning, and safety awareness. That's in any practice setting. Okay? So keep that first one in your mind, flexibility. You're going to need it this summer. Okay, so if you look at the lab assignment and you have GB next to your name or under your name for 1A, for group 1A, the lab assignment is the big sheet. If you have GB, come to the middle. You have GB, look at your number on your little piece of paper. Look at 1A. And go across to your number. Okay, folks in a master's degree program. If it says GB, you didn't get one, it's over there in that little star. Oh, you're short that one. Yeah. 2? You're going to be short that. Another one that's short, those are the ones that flew away. Tim, those are all the ones that flew away. Okay, if you have GD by your name, come to the middle and have a seat. Yup, I said be ready to get dirty on the first day. Okay. 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, if you don't have one, we will get you one. We will figure it out by the end of the day. Okay? All right. So who has SOAP written by their name? Who has AA written by their name? Okay, if you have AA written by your name, take one and pass it. SOAP, raise your hand, please. SOAP only, raise your hand. For 1A, SOAP only. SOAP only. Everybody who has SOAP written next to their name, get a sheet. Yes, no, maybe? Everybody who has SOAP written next to their name got a worksheet, right? Okay, and everybody who has AA, you're getting one too. AA is coming around. Okay, so this is a lab class. This is a do class. This is a move class. This is a be class. Okay? We will move every afternoon in this class on Friday. So come ready to get dirty, come ready to be, come ready to move. Okay? I got it? Everybody will have a role every week for every time we meet. Everybody got it? Does everybody have either a worksheet or sit down?
No, I need a
For what?
I'm AA. I'm 9, and I think I'm AA. trip I read this first.
You are number 9, you are AA.
Okay.
Okay? So those of you who have AA, you're doing an activity analysis on the group that we're getting ready to do. Those of you who have SOAP, you're going to pick one of the people sitting here, and you're going to write a SOAP note based off of their participation in the group. Okay? And those of you in the group, you're going to be analyzing the group that you're participating in. But for right now, you're just going to participate. Okay? And have fun. Everybody got it? Any questions on the basics? We will go through it again later. We good? Laura, how do I say it? Are we crystal? Are we crystalline?
Yeah.
We muddish or are we mud? Okay, if you're crystal, that means you completely understand. If you're mud, that means you understand nothing I'm saying. If you're somewhere in between, you pick which one you are in between. Okay? You got to talk to me because I don't talk at you. Got it? Okay. All right, group folks, come on back. All right. Okay. So hi, everybody. We're going to do a group today. You all are going to have an opportunity to complete a project. Once we get, everybody gets their materials, and we're going to spread out a little bit once we get everybody. Okay? So as you know, I don't know about you. Can you go around and tell me now? And then tell me what you would consider as your spirit animal.
My name is Erica, and my spirit animal is probably a golden eagle. I'm sorry.
It has to be a scary attack. Okay. Is that a little dog?
It's like a medium-sized dog. It's a golden retriever and a poodle mix.
Oh, okay.
I'm Ryan. You can.
Oh yeah. I'm Dominique. Spirit animal. I'm gonna go with
I'm Trisha. I'm Sam Dawn. I'm Laura. A dog.
Any particular?
Alright. OST. It's the last time here. You like the-
Oh, a terrier.
Yeah,
So
I
they're
like the
big.
Caesar commercials.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to do a project, and this is an example of one I hope that I did. And we're going to do this project. Have y'all ever done this before? But you've seen them before, on Pinterest or on TV or something. Okay, so we're going to do this. Y'all have a lot of different shapes to choose from and letters. If you don't like the shapes of the letters that I have, you can do your own. I brought blank paper. You can choose anything, okay? So everybody needs one of these, and that's just kind of protect the floor. Y'all are gonna need to spread out a little bit, but don't move too fast, and I'm gonna kind of give you some directions. Everybody needs a hammer. Laura, can you pass out the hammers? Okay, is anybody doing their own shape? If I know if I need to pass out scissors, stuff like that.
Did anybody look that up? If nobody looks that up.
Okay. All right. So the way that you do this is you're going to get your piece of wood. Everybody's got their own wood. Okay. So you're going to take your wood. You're going to take whichever shape that you choose, and then you're going to trace it onto the wood. Okay. And then you put the nails around, but you don't put them too close together, or it won't work when you get ready to swing. Okay. All right.
Ryan, can you pass that up?
Yep.
I'll take one.
Okay, did I give you one?
No.
Oh, I'm so sorry. All right, and then we've got lots of nails, and everybody's got hammers, right? Nails. Okay. All right, so go ahead and start to trace. You need some pencils, though, don't you? That would be helpful. Do you know how long this sleep would be if we had to sit here and be silent? It would be pretty long.
Nothing really still about just like being outside, hanging out with some friends.
Enjoying the sun, enjoying the pool.
Yes. How about you? We're tracing the outside.
You're gonna trace the outside and the inside, because that way you can get the nails on both. And get it straight. Yep. So for the sandpaper that I gave you all, some of your edges are quite rough. So if you need to sand the edges, then go ahead so you don't get splinters. You shouldn't need to sand them too much, but just in case you need to, go ahead and sand them. Yep, and then you just start hitting it in. Oh yeah, you gotta hold it in place. It's wood. It's real wood. Wood. So it needs to be very sturdy. You want to do that very sturdy. So you want to do your best to try to get it straight up and down. Get your nails straight up and down. And yes, Laura, and if you do it with the heart, make sure that your corners, yes, just like you're doing here, you hit those corners. You're going to be known when you're ready to shrink. It won't look right. Because you'll look more like you have a circle. So probably like an inch apart is probably good. So she said, all right, if you want them about an inch apart, then you can. When was the last time y'all think you used it? Resting, reading. Going to the pool. Going to the beach. I've never been to Virginia. Yes, to Ocean City. I have no desire
to go back,
as an adult. Now that I can choose where I go,
Yeah. It's not.
I would like to choose not Ocean City. So Newark, I never heard of until probably college, and then people started talking about Newark.
Not careful. No. I think. Yeah. It's just. It might have started.
That sounds cool.
Yeah, so that's I always know it's like around this time.
I think with anywhere where beach has always been jellyfish. I mean, I've heard that it's anywhere else, but I've never been somebody. I just go with water. Right there. I've heard the whole tea, I've heard the whole vinegar, I've heard beer. I've heard all these different things. I just go with water. That's the principle of it. Go by that.
I recently.
Probably the last time I got it on the beach.
Yeah.
Effort to get that nail through the wood. It's not easy as drywall or something like that. So you're probably gonna want to put one at the top. Yeah. Oh, yeah. When you start getting another one, you're like, how well you do it when you finish your nails. Mine may need to spread this out a little bit more. Sure. Probably y'all did. You did them now.
I looked around, I was like, look.
Yeah, you did them now. It's different with those nails than the other nails, right? They're trying to get the little ones in straight. It's a lot harder than the thicker ones.
Yeah.
So let's, for those of you done, let me have the extra nails. No, it doesn't matter. All done? Are you sure? All right, now, this is what I'm called. So for the sake of time, we're gonna pretend like you already did your shoe. Okay. Just for the sake of time. Okay, now we come back to it. Okay, y'all did a great job. How was it?
It was fun. It's long. I like that.
Until I realized I was behind.
Trying to catch up with everybody else, trying to get in it. Because I could see it's like the conversation just stopped. It was like, okay, we're not gonna talk. We gotta get it done. But why was it calming? And why was it fun?
It was calming because it was like monotonous. Like you start to do the same activity and you just
Yeah, in a rhythm.
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Also, it's kind of like trying something new and
Yeah.
yeah.
A little distracting.
Awesome. You think this is something that you would do again?
Oh
Do you think that you could translate some of this stuff into something else? That monotonous or that fun or trying something new. Like what?
Like painting is some of it. Like, you know, or coloring, actually. Like, you try to color lines and similar kind of pattern and rhythm.
All right, what about the actual hammering? What was it like to do a hammering thing? I like that word. I felt powerful. Is there any other time in your life where you feel powerful or you feel powerless?
It gets me not in control, but we might be able to get to choose where one of them nails and how. Yeah.
How did you think the group process went? How did you like this group? How did you like?
Great group.
That's really nice.
Yeah, it's still individual.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it wasn't, you know.
So you weren't dependent upon somebody else. You could still do your own thing. But you led her. You told her what you wanted her to help you with. Or if you didn't want her to help, but you would help you at all, you could have done it that way too. Right. Okay. Well, thank y'all for coming. Thank y'all for doing it.
Thank you.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm glad you had fun.
Yes.
So let me go ahead and take everything back. That's not your actual project. Projects are all yours. Nope, the projects are all yours. And I'm gonna take all of this stuff back. Don't forget your numbers, sandpaper, nails. Yep, pencil. All right, thank y'all for coming. All right, and now we break out into a regular class. So, what'd you think?
I wish I got
Say one more time. So it's just a woodworking activity, but I'm sure if you Pinterest it and Google it, they'll give you a title. Okay, so everybody has the handouts, right? No, those who just did it, you do not have the handout. So those who are in my group, let me give you yours. Is it everybody? Okay. All right, so let's talk about it. How many of y'all did lesson 1 online? Yep, the first thing when you go on to this week, it's a lesson. It's called a lesson. It says therapeutic use of occupation.
Question?
Right, we watch a video, we look at the OTPF, answer some questions, and you kind of progress through it, right? How do we do that? How do we do that? Y'all gotta talk to me. I do not talk at you. Lab class, not lecture. Okay. OTPF y'all seen before though, right? Not your first time seeing it. Did it point at some things within the OTPF that you may have not looked at in the way that you looked at it before? The areas that were highlighted in the comment bubbles, did everybody do that? Look at those. Like it says in the audio lecture for the syllabus. Everybody listen to the audio lecture for the syllabus. Okay. All right. Y'all will warm up. Okay, so talk to me about therapeutic occupations. What are those? What is a therapeutic occupation? That's why I don't like it. That's why you would never have it in the middle of the class while I'm here. What's a therapeutic occupation? Okay, let me ask it a different way. What makes an occupation therapeutic?
The way it's used.
Okay, keep going.
Something that's meaningful to the person.
Doesn't that just make it an occupation? What makes it therapeutic?
It's a means to an end.
It's task oriented.
It's a purpose.
Keep going.
It can
Occupation should have a purpose. Occupation should be meaningful. Occupation should have a means to an end. What makes it therapeutic?
It helps to address problems.
Okay, I like that. Keep running with that.
So, an occupation that you might not necessarily do otherwise, but it might help with something like anxiety, or mood, or something like that, like a craft or something like that.
Okay. How do I make a craft that's an occupation therapeutic versus this exact same activity? If I told you I just did this exact same activity with the Girl Scout troop last week, what's the difference?
Focus on the skills needed to complete it.
We did it in Girl Scouts to get them prepared for outdoors, for their outdoor training. Y'all still working on the skill, right? So what makes it therapeutic versus me just building a skill?
Relating the skills needed back to the deficits and problems.
Okay, I like it. Keep going.
It's therapeutic in the sense that you asked how we felt about doing something good and how we can apply like that feeling to a different situation.
So now I'm making you take it and I'm forcing you to think about translating into something else versus me just doing it for you. Right? Because that's the difference between being skilled and unskilled. Because the CNA will come in and help somebody brush their teeth. But when we come in and help somebody brushing their teeth, we're teaching them to not only brush their teeth, but then translate that same skill of brushing their teeth into something else. Right? And we're talking to them about translating that skill into something else. Now we're going to take this lovely fizz-diz world. Y'all have been in the lovely fizz-diz world for the last year. Everybody doesn't know what I mean when I say that? You're taking functional anatomy, you've taken adult physical disability, and you've taken neuroanatomy, and you've taken all these physical disability focused classes. We're now going to translate that into psychosocial. We're also going to say now add the psychosocial. Don't only think of psychosocial by itself, but you've got to add to what you've already done. And that's what this class is going to do for you. So therapeutic occupation, what makes an occupation therapeutic is what also makes it skilled. Is you as therapists are taking that occupation and teaching. You're teaching. You're helping somebody get better. Helping somebody be able to translate it into other things. Remember when I showed you the OTPS, some of the things that I highlighted was skill. You know, the bubble. So this is part of that. Okay? Any questions on that piece? What makes a craft therapeutic? You had a video on that, right? How do we make crafts into therapeutic occupations?
On one of the videos, the woman who made it said that her craft made people feel confident.
Okay. So we're working on, again, since somebody over here talked about those skills, right? Taking skills and translating them. So now we're building confidence. When people feel strong, when people feel confident, when people feel like they can achieve, they will do more. Crafts allow people that sense of achievement, that sense of confidence, to then be willing to do something new. Because I think in the group, somebody in the group said this was something new. This was something different. Now let's translate that feeling of confidence, that desire to do something new, that desire to think differently, into something else. Whether it's, I've never been on the bus before, and now it's the first time I just had a traumatic brain injury, they won't let me drive, I've got to get on the bus, but I've never taken public transportation before. Okay, let's take that sense of accomplishment and translate it to that. Are we seeing it a little bit? Are we crystalline? My goal at the end of every class is to get you to crystalline. It's your job to get yourself to crystal. Okay? good on crafts? Because we're gonna do some more. Okay, so now let's talk activity analysis. My activity analysis people and everybody. Because everybody should have some input on activity analysis. What did you see? Let's start from the easy, because you had a whole year of phys diz, right? So let's go with the easy. What we got? Oh, so we're jumping to social participation. Okay. What about social participation?
The engagement and conversation, the listening and responding.
We're breaking down some of those performance skills. We're looking at some of those performance skills. Yeah. Keep going.
Direction following, and initiation of the conversation.
Okay.
Asking for assistance or initiating that you could provide assistance.
Good.
Here.
And what I like about that is you're differentiating initiation in social interaction from initiation in processing skills. Because they're two different things. If we look at the OTPS, they're two different things. One is a cognitive piece and one is a social interaction piece. They do work together. But yes. Anybody else?
They had to have the ability to kind of pay attention to what they were doing, but also multitask whole conversation, because what they were doing could be essentially like unsafe or dangerous in the sense that you didn't have that attention, like hammer down.
So you really had to focus. My people in the group, did you really have to focus on that one nail at a time? It took some work to really get that one nail, especially after I said it should be straight. Okay, all right. What else?
Proprioception, so I have to make sure that the hand is in the right place and you're holding your arms in the right places to look over here.
And now y'all stay really tight together. Usually when I do this, everybody, even when I do it with adults, they spread out. They really move.
We like each other.
Okay, what else?
Calibration.
Okay,
Manipulate.
okay, for sure. Absolutely. What else? Yep, keep going.
Muscle power,
Yes, let's go with some of the phys diz stuff. Thank you.
muscle endurance.
Yes, y'all had to sit there, and that's not the most comfortable position to sit in on the floor. You had to have that balance. You had to have that ability to bend over and hammer, for sure.
Grip strength.
On that hammer, yes. And y'all had all had different hammers with different weights and different things going on, for sure.
Visual quality.
Yeah, you definitely had to have that vision, right? You had to really look at what you were doing, be able to, especially those of you who had the small nail versus those of you who had the big nail. Those of you who had the smaller hammers, because you had the tiny hammer, versus those of you who had the heavier, larger hammer. Okay?
Fine motor skills, like being able to hold the nail and then apply it to like along the line that you hit it on.
So people were talking about manipulation. Yes.
So visual and tactile to make sure that you're not having it too deep in or leaning out too far out.
Being able to get that feedback from how deep is it and versus not deep is it.
Organizing.
Oh yes, because I let you all decide where you were going to put the nails. I didn't do that for you. I let you all decide which pattern you wanted to follow. I let you all decide how you wanted that shape to be on your wood. That was you all doing that. So yes, you had to organize, pre-plan, and do some things like that. Yes. Keep going. I'm listening. I apologize. I should have had this on before.
Drive and motivation.
Emotional response. Talk to me about emotional response.
I didn't quite hear, but like it was something funny and like everybody laughs, but no like flat affect or like someone crying all of a sudden kind of thing.
So appropriate emotional response. Yeah, for sure.
Drive and motivation.
Tell me about that.
Everybody kind of kept going at their pace and finished.
For sure. So usually this activity takes about an hour to do, especially once you look at the string. When I usually give people the opportunity to do 2 to 3 colors of string. And then we go over how to weave it through and things like that. And people choose their own patterns and how they want that to look. For the sake of time, I just didn't have you all do that. But I will give you string for those of you who did it, because I'm sure you want to actually finish it. So I will give you the string to be able to do that. Keep going, what else? I like the social interaction piece because I do this more for the social interaction than for the physical piece. So talk to me a little bit more. I like how you brought up the emotional regulation too. Oh my gosh.
Answering questions.
Responding, absolutely. And asking questions. Can I do this? Probing me. For sure.
Yeah, I was gonna say, just being mindful of other people's space, because I was noticing that people were tightly together, and people were careful not to sort of interfere in someone's space, but would also cooperate to pass a nail or do something like that, so be mindful of a lot of people.
For sure, what were you gonna say?
Also, everybody was able to adjust to the added noise of the hammering, so everybody actually began speaking louder, so they could make it.
That volume of your voice, being appropriate with your volume of voice.
Sharing, so someone asks for a nail.
So I purposely set it up like that. That's part of the leadership, is that there has to be some level of sharing. It's a way to facilitate communication. It's a way to facilitate social interaction. That's why I lay all the shapes out and I say, you all choose what you want. And I hope that everybody's is not directly in front of them. The ones that they want to use. And I hope, which did not happen this time, that usually 2 people want to do the same shape. Because then you're also working on that take turns piece, that sharing piece. That I will take a step back and let somebody else do it first. Piece of social interaction. Okay? All right, so what's kind of the next stuff that you all had to look at on Moodle? Because that's what today's class is going to be. A lot of what you all did on Moodle. Nope, you do not have the computer in front of you. Isn't that lovely? I'm making you remember. Ooh, the 7 steps, right?
I said something.
I like it. That's okay. The 7. That's okay. That's why you come to lab, so that you can then refresh your mind on all this stuff you did online. Right? Okay, so let's talk about these 7 steps. What are these 7 steps? 7 steps of what?
I don't know, I was gonna start with number 1, introduction, but facilitating group social interaction.
Okay. Keep going, somebody else.
Just like,
How to lead a group session. How to lead a group session.
How to lead the group session? Yeah, so leadership. That's actually next week, but yes, leadership is a piece of it. So what I have here, hopefully I'm posed properly so that y'all can see it. It comes up. Is I wrote the group right up so that y'all can see these 7 steps. You can see my process of how I bring a group together. All right. So what do you think we have to start with when we plan a group session?
What are people's capabilities?
Okay. So that lovely performance capacity. Performance capacity. Whether that can everybody see that a little bit? You will have this on Moodle to be able to look at later. So performance capacity. And how do we find out performance capacity? Assessment, very good. So when we evaluate our people, for sure. Okay, what else? And when we, I'm sorry, wait a minute. When we evaluate them, what do we then come up with after the evaluation? We come up with goals. How do we come up with goals? We talk to them, ask them what they want to work on. What else?
Identify the deficits.
By identifying the deficits. What else?
I guess looking at referral for why they do.
Okay. What else?
Look at their ADLs and see what occupations they want to work on. Like,
Yep, that's asking them what they want to work on. I want you to think about it in terms of occupation, not just ADL. Because ADLs are only one category of occupation. Okay, absolutely. We look at their roles. What else do we look at in that section of the OTPF? Habit, routine, roles. Absolutely.
where they're in administration.
Thank you. For sure. Where are they going when they finish with you? The psychosocial practice settings are not just in a community-based outpatient. Psychosocial practice settings are inpatient, acute, inpatient, long-term, outpatient, outpatient acute, partial hospitalization program, group homes, community housing, club houses. All of those are part of psychosocial practice settings. But where do we also treat psychosocial aspects of a patient? Everywhere. Everywhere. So when you're doing an assessment in a phys-ed or a traditional phys-ed setting, you still need to be looking at those psychosocial components. So roles, habits, routines, for sure, are what we're looking at. So goals. I always start with what are my group goals? And I get my group goals based off of individual goals. Okay? You have to know what the individual goals are, and then that's how I can group people together. For the sake of this class, because it is so random, some of y'all may not always be in the same exact groups that are typical groups for you all. You may not all have the same likes and dislikes and the same everything. But for the most part, you're all on the same cognitive level. And we'll be going much more into cognitive level later. Okay? So I start with my group goals. Then I identify, okay, what group do I want to do? I love this group. I love this group. I do this group in acute care site hospitals. I do this group in partial hospitalizations. And I've done this group in community-based mental health. I love this group. Okay. So then we go into the purpose of the group. Why did I choose this specific group? How many of you have MOHO written on your little piece of paper? How many of you have sensory motor written on your little piece of paper? How many of you have cognitive disabilities written on your little piece of paper? How many of you have something else written on your little piece of paper? What do you have? Sorry, I was running out of that. Behavioral. That should be the last one, right? Woo! Sorry. Yeah. Okay. So y'all know those before, right? This is not the first time you're hearing these frames of references and these models and these theories, right? And then,
Yes.
yeah, 3 more hours left. That's first time. So now you're going to see those same frames of reference models and theories being used in a traditional site setting, okay, and some emerging site settings. Okay, so I chose MOHO for this one. And as you'll read here, I chose MOHO because I'm looking at all those things that you all talked about. Performance capacity. Is this something that they want to do? Honestly, I don't really care. Because I'm not looking at, is this something that you wanted to do before you came in? I'm looking at, is this something that you might want to do later? Is this something that will teach you some skills that you can translate into something later? How many of y'all had fun doing it? That were in the group? How many of y'all felt a release doing this? How many of y'all would have just chosen to do this on a regular day if I gave you a list of 100 things to do today? No, right? But how good did it feel to do this after sitting in a class for the last 4 hours? How How many of you felt like you did something, you accomplished something, and you moved, and you weren't just sitting here looking at me, listening and talking? Yes? Again, so now do you feel like you liked it? So we see it afterwards. It's not always something that you see ahead of time with Moho in terms of it's something that's meaningful, it's something that's purposeful, it's something that they want to do. Okay? Sometimes it's after. Sometimes you as the leader are facilitating or directing them into something that they may want to do later. Okay? And then we look at those big social interaction skills. That was a huge thing I was looking for with this. Of course I have to look at the motor. Of course I have to look at the processing. In terms of processing, I can guess that you all are all on about the same cognitive level just because of where you are, the environment that we're in. Okay? So do you have the cognition to demonstrate pre-planning? Do you have the cognition to organize? Absolutely. Do you have the cognition to follow direction? Multi-step direction, not just one-step direction, but multi-step direction. So those are a lot of the things that I look at when I choose the purpose of this group. Okay? So then we go into describing the activity. Again, y'all will have this on Moodle. It's already there. We'll open up at midnight tonight. Okay? Leadership style. I use a facilitative leadership style. I'm a facilitative leader. That is just who I am. Can I flex that and can I change that? Of course, I already told you. Being in psychosocial settings, you have to be flexible. So I can be very directive if I need to. If we're doing a project that has, no matter what cognitive level, that has very specific safety issues, I can be very directive with my clients. If I have a group of clients who are very self-directed, who are able to do things and follow multiple multi-step directions, then I can be very laid back. I can be very advisory leadership if I need to. With this one, I knew this was going to be an activity that was new to y'all, or that was going to be something you haven't done in a while. So I knew I needed to be facilitated, give you more direction. And that's why I was a facilitating leader. Okay, you always have to think about the possible negatives of any group. We love to think about our wonderful positives. That's why we have these goals. These are our goals. Our goals are our positives. Our goals are this is in a perfect world, all of this is going to happen. But negatives, y'all tell me, negatives, what you got? Huh?
Fall under the shade.
Yeah. What else?
Frustration.
Frustration.
Because the floor is a little uncomfortable, so like, that's
Mm-hmm. Disinterest. Absolutely. That's always, that was my one right there. Keep going. Refuse to do it, for sure. I always have patients who refuse to do my stuff. Mm-hmm.
People might feel self-conscious if they aren't progressing as quickly as
Mm-hmm.
they discouraged.
Because I think we had some of that, right? Like, oh my gosh, they're doing it.
Someone had like an outburst, they had like a weapon in their hand.
Yeah.
Thank you. So now let's go into safety. Because as OTs, we're always safety first. So let's think safety first.
So if they use materials in the wrong way.
Absolutely. I got a group of people with all of them got hammers. And nails. What else? Yeah, that's why I put the little rubber mat under it. Absolutely. That's it on the floor.
Triggering, because the noise, like you might have somebody who has like PTSD and
Mm-hmm.
respond well.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
If you had kids, then you'd have nails going into the mouth.
Absolutely. For sure. So now let's think a little bit more on the surface safety. Y'all didn't look too deep. Surface, bare bones safety. You got it.
Fingers.
Fingers. Somebody's going to hit themselves with the hammer in their finger. Did we already have that? Anybody hurt themselves with the hammer on their fingers? Good. It usually happens. I usually have at least one person hit their fingers with the hammer. Yes. What about the nail? Poke themselves with the nail. You usually have at least one person poke themselves. Because they'll go to put it and they'll have their finger, because they're trying to make it so straight, that they'll put their finger under the nail and won't move their finger fast enough when they get ready to hit it with the hand.
Slivers from the lip.
Yeah, somebody always gets a splinter. I was surprised. I didn't have any splinter. Very good, y'all. Very good. It's like they're sitting closer together, which is a good thing. What else? Anything else?
It's like everyone's swinging in the close
Shit,
proximity.
that's why I was like, y'all stayed. That's why I started moving in a little bit closer because you all stayed so close that I was very afraid of somebody coming up with that hammer way too far back. But I think y'all were so in it. Okay. Anything else? All right. Let's go take a minute to come back up. Okay. So yes, you want to think about the negatives, possible negatives for your patients, but you also have to think about the positive possible negatives for you. So there's a section I have in here that talks about the possible negatives of the leader. I might have run out of supply, right? And I might not have been able to manage the behaviors. I haven't met y'all before, so I didn't really know how everybody was going to interact. And I don't know who picked what numbers. So I didn't know. It was very random, so I didn't know who was going to be in the group. So those are some of the things from a leader standpoint. Okay, so once it comes back up, we'll start talking about the session outline. And we'll go through each one of those 7 whole steps, right? First step is introduction. What happens in the introduction? Because this is part of your reading. I will not teach it to you. This is part of your PowerPoint. I will not stand up in here and teach it to you. What happens in the introduction?
Everybody is acknowledged and everybody says their names, even if everybody knows each other.
Okay, so what did I do in our introduction?
Spirit animal.
Introduce yourself into an icebreaker.
Yes, I had a nice little icebreaker of spirit in it, right? Okay, then what happens? Then we have our activity. Direction. You actually do it. Whatever the activity is, whatever the task is, whatever it is, you do it. What do we do? What do we do? We did a woodworking activity, right? I distributed the materials during the activity. I gave the specific directions during the activity. Because in the introduction, I'm really only giving the main safety pieces. Then we get to the activity, I'm giving you your instructions, you're choosing your material, you're coming up with what you want to do, you're making some decisions, and you're actually doing it and following through. All right, so then we go to sharing. What happens in sharing?
That's how we felt.
Okay. Okay, so that's more processing, but then I was like, show me what you made. Yes. If we weren't short on time, I would have said, hold it up. Tell me why you chose a heart. Tell me why you chose an L. Tell me why you chose a D. Okay? That's more of the sharing piece. Okay? Now let's go to the next one. Now we get into processing. Now go ahead and talk.
Oh, you asked us questions and had so now we talk about our experience of the activity.
Yes. How did you feel about the group itself? How did you feel about the activity that you did? That's processing the group. Okay? What you want to do when you're writing this up is you want to have questions to yourself. Because if you come in thinking that your people are going to have all the questions and ready to talk, let me tell you, it's not going to happen. Because what's happening right now? I'm talking to myself. Okay? So you have to come ready with some probing questions. Because if they're not going to process it themselves, you have to give some people some probes, some questions, some verbal cues. You learned about verbal cues in phys ed, right? Why do you think that would be any different in psych? It's not. Those same verbal cues exist for psych. Okay. So then we go to generalizing. I kind of summed up the group a little bit. What did we do? Okay. Yeah, we did some social interaction, and actually y'all did a lot of that yourselves. I didn't really have to say it. You all said it, which is great, because that shows a higher level group. You all were able to generalize the group, which is great. Okay? Then application, I said, how could you use this in other ways? How could you translate these skills, this activity, your feelings, your emotions, doing this activity into something else in your life? Yes, no, maybe. And then the end is just a summary. Because it was a higher level group, I didn't really have to do as much of what I had planned because you all did it throughout the group. So I really didn't have to do a whole lot of summary there. Okay? Any questions on the Cole's 7 steps of this group, or how this group was, or what facilitative leadership looks like, or what therapeutic use of occupations looks like, or how we use crafts in a skilled versus non-skilled format? So we're all Priscilla.
So I guess I was a little bit surprised that the application, it was just such a quick discussion. And I guess it makes sense because if you sit there and hammer it in, people are just kind of, whatever. But I guess is that kind of standard? You just sort of.
It would depend upon the level of my group, and
Okay.
it would also depend upon what we're doing. So if I'm doing a money management group, I'm going to spend a lot more time on the application piece than I am on the actual activity piece. So my activity piece for money management would be much smaller, but my application piece would be bigger. Because in a money management group, I might do where they have to create a budget. Okay? For most patients in an outpatient and an inpatient or partial hospitalization program and inpatient acute site, which are most of the areas that I've worked, they can create a budget in about 5, max 10 minutes, right? But I had an hour long group. So my application piece and my generalization piece are longer. Because now I'm talking about, okay, you did this budget, so let's talk about it. Because they're just going to share to me, I got $10, this is what I do with my $10. That's the sharing piece. Now, what am I going to do with the application? Okay, so now let me broaden it out and say, okay, I'm going to give you $1,000 a month. Now, translate with your $10 budget into a $1,000 budget. And now we're translating those skills. Now we're talking more application to generalists. It's going to be much longer in those types of groups than it would in this type of group. It really depends on the group. And it really depends on what the purpose is. This was a social interaction group. A money management group is more of a life skills group. So I'm really looking at you translating that skill to something else. Versus my focus is you demonstrating social interaction. Are we seeing the difference a little bit there? Okay, yes.
So like, for example, what you just said, like, so you have playing Monopoly just for leisure versus playing Monopoly and now it's developing the skills of money management. Which is applying, I guess,
So when my daughter and my husband play Monopoly, which I refuse to participate, they are playing because they're cutthroat and ruthless. And they want to just have fun playing with them. That is their time. My husband lives in North Carolina, so when he comes home, that's their one little, hopefully in my mind, it only lasts an hour. Sometimes it lasts a little bit more, right? But that's their time, that's their fun, that's their thing. Now, when I do Monopoly with my patients, I structure it for that just right challenge. Y'all learned about that, right? Just right challenge. So I am going to make sure that I set it up so that they, number one, are successful in some way, shape, or form, so that they have a challenge and have to think outside the box. And then at the end of the game, or even during the game, we're going to talk about how can you translate those skills. How do you feel about going to jail? What does it mean when now you got this community chest, right? So I'm making it so that it's a skilled activity, that you're learning something from it, and the questions, the probes, the verbal cues that I give allow you to take it to someplace else. I'm not saying that doesn't happen with real monopoly, because my child thinks that she can build a hotel. But, yes, that is the difference. Okay? Any other questions? Okay, the second part. Y'all have 5 minutes, so 2:12.
Oh, can I get a number for?
Give me just, what's gonna have to happen is at the end of this one, at the end of the class,
Okay, that's fine.
because I gotta find out who doesn't have numbers. So when we were outside coming down here, all my numbers were come out.
It's okay.
Can you do attendance at? As long as it's not. If that. Yeah, I just, because like that, there's no way this is that. Because that's what it is. Crazy. And
Just get one photo.
I know, it's just cute, that is cute. That is smart.
that's true.
Like,
You're right about that.
I'm like, I know, yay.
Argument. Oh, you didn't have a question.
I wouldn't say nothing. It's just I know.
Okay, as long as they have to, because they have to.
I know.
Anyway, self-awareness. Then I'll- okay. And I have an acting out, if you want to do an acting out. Yes, yes. I'm gonna move away from this too.
Yeah.
Self-awareness, right? Yes, okay. Does anything come to self-awareness? The next one.
This is the German program that you're doing.
Oh,
You didn't listen to it first.
I did listen to it.
Because she said it.
She said it like I can't.
Summertown, oh, that's true. Yeah. That's how it is.
What?
I'm good for it.
Like I started doing it, I was like, there's no way I can finish it before y'all. So if it's a challenge, what am I supposed to do? Just
How about this person?
oh, the physical paper tomorrow.
All right, so who is GD for 1B? Who is GD for 1B? Again, find your number, go down to 1B, and then go across. Okay, if you are GD for 1B, head over to the round table. Just stand around the round table right quick. Okay? Who is SOAP for 1B? SOAP for 1B. Please know that all of these forms are on Moodle.
But it's
SOAP only. I'm handing out SOAP only. You want SOAP? 1B SOAP. Yes. Say it one more time. One more. SOAP.
So this time, this activity I do on SOAP.
Okay, AA for 1B. AA. AA.
So we gotta get.
Any more AA for 1B? AA. There's too many of y'all. Okay. Okay. Everybody sitting here should have a worksheet, right? All right. For those of you who have your back to that table, I advise you flip around to the other side. Oh yeah, get ready to get messy. No, this is not kindergarten.
Yeah, I can't see that, that whole.
Okay, so everybody has their assignment, right? Everybody knows what they're supposed to be doing. Everybody can see, right? All right. All right, y'all, come on and have a seat. Sit by a piece of paper. names and then give me your favorite color. Try to remember everybody's names as much as I can. Are you going?
I'm Karen, and my favorite color is lime green.
I'm Dave, favorite color is blue.
My name's Cameron, and my favorite color is teal.
And it's Andrew, my favorite color is
Gold.
Fantastic.
My name's Beth, and my favorite color is mustard.
Caroline.
Yeah, I am never going to forget that. Give me a reference point. Look at that. And we look it up for a Okay, so what we're going to do today, as you can see, is finger paint. When was the last time y'all finger paint? Well, there you go. Babysitting. That work. What do you do?
I work with kids. Okay.
Okay, awesome.
I don't remember. Maybe.
Alright, so what you're going to finger paint today is, and I do this every year when I teach this class, is I want you to use up as much paper as you can with this piece of paper. You're going to finger paint what your issues, concerns are with the OT program that you know. Absolutely. Oh. This is your opportunity to express yourself in your pictures
Pull out some Picasso.
with your feet. And you have all the colors. Right? So what you're going to do, because as you see, you're going to need to share, right? You have all these cups, so you're going to fill up the cups with the colors. You have lots of paper towels. And if you are sensitive to paint, you really don't want it to touch your hands, I have gloves. This is your opportunity to express yourself in paint.
That's concern.
Concerns, issues, and positives.
Okay,
Of the program. Okay? Do you think? You all have 20 minutes.
Yeah, sure. Frustrations and
Frustrations, concerns, issues, positives, your overall feelings about the program.
I know. It's not like a hamster, right? It's like big sheep's already poured down those. It's not glass.
yes.
Yeah.
I some like
collectively or just like personally?
Sorry. No, sorry, Bob.
yeah.
Remember, you have 20 minutes, so take your time. And you all can use the sink. The sink is here. If you need to wash your hands, you can use the sink. If you need more paper towels, you can get the paper towels. Okay? All of you.
I know that. Oh, okay.
No.
I thought you were gonna
Another thing coming up.
Oh, yeah.
What's the time, man? Look.
You have plenty of all on you. If y'all need to spread out, you can spread out this way. If you need to spread, you can spread. That's why I brought the extra table over. So if you need to spread, spread.
No.
plenty of time. Do your thing. 10 minutes.
It is. It's not a surprise.
Really? You keep it? Yeah, it's in our attic.
It's fair. Turn it on, we're sitting right in front of it. Over there. Yeah, what's over here?
No, hospital. I made something. It's kind of like green.
I did a lot of work. Whoops. Why is it so hard?
Exactly.
Three more minutes.
We get the cider.
Okay, so when you're finished, for those of you who are finished, go ahead and wash your hands. Put the paper towels in the garbage, cups in the garbage, go ahead and clean up the table.
That's just.
Oh yeah, you're you work with kids, man. Saving.
Yeah, that's.
Put it back in, put it back in, put it back in. I appreciate it.
You can get it on your shirt. Yay. I know.
All right. I guess let's start with the frustrations. This is supposed to be a calendar with like a bunch of question marks on it because like I just feel like sometimes there's a lot of discrepancies about due dates or weeks that we're coming to school, not coming to school, field work dates, and it's kind of good segue into my next one, like being so far away from where school's at, like it's good to know these things in advance, and sometimes it's not the case, which can be frustrating.
Where are you coming from?
Philadelphia.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the
I'm sorry,
that's my car.
PHI. I see, okay.
Yeah, to DC. Last semester I had an 89.6, not get rounded up to an A minus. I was pretty frustrated up. And not so much that like I just thought it should be rounded up because it was close. It was like a last assignment took forever to come in, and like the way it shook out like brought it to that score and not, you know, a couple decimal points higher. So it was frustrating. This is supposed to be a seesaw, like schoolwork balance. That's tough sometimes. Yeah.
Wait till OT, doesn't it?
No. And then this is like supposed to be my, you know, good thing or encouraging thing. I just really like the people that are here. So it's like people holding hands in like a sunshine. That's it.
What's in the corner?
Oh, this was like a clock. So sometimes like it kind of all corresponds with like the commute and stuff. I just think sometimes I'm frustrated with like the use of the time here, and feel like people come from a long way, and sometimes it's like this could have been done online, or why did we come all the way here to get this? You know what I mean? To look at a PowerPoint, or yeah, so time wasting was what that was going on. Yeah.
But I see school is higher than work, so you think work has more weight than school?
That wasn't I didn't put thought into which side was up or down. I was gonna put it even, just trying to find a balance was what I was going for, but then I didn't know if the picture would, you'd feel like it didn't really look like a seesaw if it was even. So I just
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for sharing.
Mm-hmm.
I like steel.
So this is supposed to be the negative, so this can be the positive side. It's supposed to be a hospital, or a clinic, in a field, and field work. So there's a clock in the middle, and that's supposed to be like representational of assignments and exams, papers, and all presentations. It was really, really hard to get everything in at the same time and not feel overwhelmed. So that was a negative, and the positive is at the same time I felt accomplished. So it's like the Trinity colors and the check marks. So every time I was able to do something and submit it online or whatever it was, I felt better, and I felt as though my knowledge increased over the last year quite a bit as far as fatigue goes and everything with this practice. So that felt pretty good too.
Is there a reason to show your positives over your negatives?
No.
That was an accident. Thank you for sharing.
Well, I'm the only completely abstract, great Picasso esque. I don't know, when we started, I couldn't think of anything that I thought I could do well in concrete, so I just kind of let my emotions go out on the page, and I think this kind of dark ball here with the dark marks is kind of the tension, you know, and the stress of school, and trying to balance, you know, school with other obligations and stresses in life, family issues and other things, and also just kind of the turmoil of like going through a career change, inventing oneself, that's what I'm trying to do. But then from this mass, and almost like a stormy sky here, you see kind of blending into the other colors, the lighter colors, almost like what's on the horizon. It's like get out of this sort of stress, moving it forward and see kind of brighter sun and fields and lilies, and thinking that's the future, a much more serene future. Out of this
So if you had to pick something specific as a concern, what would you say is your concern or your issue that's specific, that's not just the purchase? What is in that purple ball that you would pick out if you could pick one thing out?
In terms of concern.
In terms of concerns or issues on the negative side, areas of needed improvement.
For the program.
And if you have none, don't feel like you have to say something. Because I'm going to say the exact same thing for your positive. What would you say is your positive that you would pluck out of those bright colors?
Positive being graduating. Passing exams and having a career that's rewarding. You know, where I'm serving people and doing something where I can see an impact. Past career. The negative side, I guess it's just that, again, sort of, can I balance all of this? How do I prioritize? How do I keep my mental health and self-esteem and feeling confident as I move into it, in the field?
Thank you.
All right.
Who's next?
Yes.
I would like you to. If you don't want to, you don't have to.
Just to you guys or to everyone?
Us is the next.
Oh, okay, so I'll start with my negative. One of my biggest, I guess, issues have been being placed in rovers that I can't get to by train or by like really any other way but a car, and I don't have a car, so that has been a challenge and kind of frustrating because I wish that I don't have a car. So, but my biggest positive, I moved here from New Jersey, like not knowing a single person in DC, and so just the people in this program that I've met and become friends with have like completely changed my feelings towards DC. Because originally I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna go back home, like I can't do this, and then yeah, really changed.
Oh, welcome to the DMV.
Yeah. Really made a huge difference.
Why do you think you needed to leave the DMV? What was your perception of the DMV? I'm always interested in
Well,
about you.
just because I didn't like have a community here, I didn't know anyone. And it's hard when you're not working full time. And like balancing that school life balance to like really meet people, so that was challenging for me at first, like putting myself out there. But
Well, thank you for sharing.
Well, this section over here is chaos. And within the chaos, when we have class, some semesters, if you ask a question, the one question takes about an hour to get maybe half an answer out of. So, and once you get an answer with some teachers, if they grade your stuff last semester, it wasn't good enough and they wanted more, which is fine, but I didn't realize that, or knew, like, I just didn't realize it and it wasn't enough for them.
Keep holding it just a little bit of time.
And then, okay, well, my complaint was the commute, but it's irrelevant compared to him because I'm from Northern Virginia. But traffic sucks. So, but it's okay because it's only every other weekend, which is fine. And then also last semester, the grading, it wasn't when you expected to get grades back. So when you're getting graded for multiple assignments like discussion posts or case studies, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and you get 3 grades in a row and the same teach back and the same grades, there's no way to improve yourself. And so it was really frustrating trying to get better grades when you didn't get those grades back to improve yourself, when you knew you could do it. And my positives is I really liked fieldwork.
was really enjoyable, and I like everybody here. It was fun. We made new friends, and I love to eat, guys.
What'd you like about food?
I'm sorry. Well, I have all of it. My supervisor, she was really cool. She was really chill. She let me do what I could, and then I also could practice like transfers on people who worked there. And they gave me their full body weight, which certain people are heavy. Not when you're practicing in class, because everybody's gentle, but in real life people are heavy. I don't know, the environment, I really like the environment.
What's that?
Yeah. Inpatient,
So this is what I drew. And on my right side here are my concerns. At the top there, just the NBCOT exam. And then I can't really tell here, but these are a set of eyes.
I can see.
Yeah.
I don't know. For some reason, like I don't like. And it's weird because in my job, I do a lot of it, and I have a lot of eyes on me. I'm comfortable there. So for some reason, down here, I show up a little bit. And then other concerns containing 3.0, and this is supposed to be like the poster board that we're gonna do here. And then positives, I did my best. I took a quick look at everybody and I drew everybody. And then, yeah, everyone's real positive. I like everybody. And January 2021, that's the let it be.
Thank you. So, how was it? Y'all was there. You had a lot of trepidation going into it. So how did the group go?
Yeah,
Why?
I don't know, you're trying to figure out like, I mean, I know, but I don't know, like what's positive or negative to me, but I guess just like putting it out there. Putting it out there politely.
Putting it out there. Putting it out there politely. So you were trying not to hurt other people's feelings.
Yes, just trying to say it, but in a professional manner. It's not a professional group. Okay, but.
I felt like validating, I think, just like, not that I expected anything to change with the program based off of our finger team, but sometimes it just feels good to like tell somebody or people what you are frustrated about.
Absolutely. Get that
Cathartic or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get it out, to say it. How was it doing it in finger paint? Just in Word? Or writing a paper about it?
You thought it was easier?
Well,
I want to know, like, I used to do like, oil pastel with fingers, and I loved doing that years ago, so it's kind of nice.
Okay, so it took you back to something that you've done before that was a way for you to express yourself or release. Or,
Yeah, I felt that I had some physical words. It was like the first thing I did. Big chunky thing. Oh, that feels
Less controlled everything.
You don't have to be perfect when you're doing this. The expectation is that it's not perfect because it's with your fingers instead of with a paintbrush or an ink pen or a pencil. It allows you to get it out and to put it in a non-structured medium. So let's go back a little bit to that trepidation piece, because I felt the trepidation in the room. Like, I can't put what I really want to put on there. Why?
I feel like I was held back by the fingerprint. Like, I didn't have a problem sharing what I wanted to share. Like, that piece of it, it was like, how do I get this? I was thinking, so like, like Pictionary skills. You know? Like, how can I, like, if you was not a factual picture, can I relay a message, you know? Kind of like that.
So what about in the sharing piece? because even when y'all were sharing, it felt like you were still holding back some of it. And I think I can say that for all of you. It felt like there was something being held back. Now I could tell some of y'all were like, yeah. But others were like, I'm gonna say it, but I'm gonna say it in a way.
I feel like I was trying to tiptoe not to like make a generalization, like saying like every experience I've had has been like this. Like I don't want to say like every teacher has not my grade up, or like I just wanted to make sure it wasn't like misconstrued as like just this constantly a problem, and I wanted to like not catastrophize.
I hate making food. Yeah. Okay. Anybody else?
I felt like I could have said more after the fact.
Okay. Maybe after you heard some of the other things that
Yeah.
other people said, well, build on that. Like, what would you say now? If you could go back, any of you, and add to it, what would you add? Now that you've heard everybody, what would you add? Or what would you take away? Or what would you change? However.
It was the field work week. I loved the field work. It was extremely stressful with all of the midterms and the volume of information at the same time. And I think a lot of us felt like this is not doable, or at least not doable well.
Yeah.
And several of us went into one exam saying, "We really didn't have time to study. We tried to prepare for something. We didn't care. We were getting very little sleep and doing everything we could." And there's only so much time, you know, and
Like,
coming.
it's clockable.
Yeah, and coming in and getting, in the 70s, when you're a much better student than that, it's frustrating. Like, I was wishing I had this master. I know other people felt that way too.
Yeah, I feel like I didn't learn as much this as I should have.
Yes, I feel that too, yeah.
We were the same week.
Yeah.
I mean, I loved field work, but it was the same week as midterms, 2 projects. Was it
Right, we had 2 group presentations,
Yeah,
and all three people in my group were in field work together, so we couldn't have like one person cover for the other.
yeah, there was none of that.
And you can't let your group down, so it's like something that you did was one.
It was the test.
It was one of the classes.
Yeah, you gotta like pick and choose.
Yeah.
And it was important stuff. It was like stroke and stuff that we really need to know. And so it was, yeah.
So if you could make a recommendation individually, if you could make a recommendation, what would your recommendation be? How would you take what you learned, take what your frustration was, and take what worked well? Because you like field work.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm only taking this one example for right now. You really like that field work. What would your recommendation be going forward?
I think some like strategic coordination with, like for example, that week we spent a whole class that week presenting, so like everyone presented that week. Whereas like I think if they would have taken a step back and looked at stress level of people doing field work, they could have said like, if people are on field work, you'll do the group project another week when the other people are doing field work. And people who aren't on field work this week, you guys are grouping up and you'll present and kind of like space it out. Like I felt like there was zero effort to kind of look at it and be like, also we had presentations that week in a different class on the same assessments. So it was like really obvious that the teachers weren't in cahoots with each other in terms of, because we were literally getting.
So what's your recommendation?
I'd be strategic or try to coordinate better with workload and field
And
work.
field work.
Now to reflect, go ahead, I'm sorry.
The teachers just didn't talk to each other. And just in the best interest of the students to succeed and not actually the harm for grades.
I want somebody to recommend me what to do this semester, because this semester I have field work and midterm again. Because I mean, it's too late to recommend to teachers how to change. So like, what should I do?
So let's build on that. Let's take that, because that was the next thing I was going to say. So now, what can you say to each other? Because you've gone through it, right? You know how stressful it is. So the summer is very different. Just want to say, the summer is very different than the rest of a regular semester. So what can you say, looking on that experience personally, that personal insight to say, this is what I need to do, knowing that didn't work, or whatever I did there didn't work. What can I do for this summer?
I guess maybe just like set weekly goals for yourself of like me. I'm like a very visual person, so like if I see like, okay, I have this, this, and this I need to complete this week, you can kind of like build your schedule in a way that like maybe that week you won't have to focus on so much. I mean, I know like some of the assignments you can do ahead of time, but in terms of like maybe like outlining all your information as soon as you read the chapter, so that way you don't have to go back and outline again like the week of the exam, and that way you already have all your all your notes together in one place, so it's more of like you're kind of just reviewing them. You don't have to like actually do physical or like medical work.
You're not learning it in
Yeah.
time, you're reviewing it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think something I figured out, but I don't feel like I could have done anything. That's the truth. I worked as hard as I could. That saying like work smarter, not harder. Like I was doing that to the best of my ability, and I always end up underestimating the amount of time it takes to do the reading and the work. So even if I have that plan in my mind, it doesn't pan out that way.
I think even if you feel like you can't do anything else, you can also just kind of look at the silver lining and read it through.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So if we
You're
do
all
it
here.
then, we can do it again.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like the most enjoyable process. But like you said, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Yeah, when you yeah. So don't try not to like beat yourself up too bad.
Yeah.
Kind of like take on stress that you really can't do anything about. You can't manage your schedule. It's not in our control. So
Yeah, I mean, sometimes maybe that's week when you're just not gonna be able to.
Set the
Except
end.
when you're not gonna be able to do as well, but you make up for it, you know, on the other exams. Because I don't think any of the exams, I have to look so significant, I know, because it was one of the classes, the midterm and final are a relatively small percentage of the grade. I mean, that's not to say you don't care or blow it off, but if you don't do as well as you normally would, it's not gonna be a third of the grade or half grade. So you have to kind of look at that. You know, and sometimes a lot of the assignments we do in this class, you really are learning to do TEA. So you get graded on that. So maybe you don't know the textbook as well for this one midterm, but you learned other things. But it's hard to see though, because we're all smart people. We all want to do well. We want it to be a reflection of our, you know.
You want your grades to reflect the work that you put in.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna ask you to hold up yours. Let's talk about what he has in that corner. So we're looking at that MVCLT. That's your A game, right? So when you get to that MVCLT, you've at least made it there. You've made it through all the classes to get there. So you got to realize that you're gonna have to study again once you get to the exam. You don't learn everything within the program to pass your MVCLT exam. That's why you don't sit for the MVCLT exam as soon as you walk across the stage. It's a 45-day process if you follow most schedules. 45-day, 6-week process before you sit for the exam. You've got to do and learn and do so much more than just within the program. The program sets you up, but you've got to move that. You've got to take all these skills that you've learned in the program within that 45 days and that 6 weeks and build on those and study. No matter what study program you choose to do, therapy ed, pass the OT, MVCLT, A-code, whatever, AOTI, whatever, you're still going to have to keep pushing and keep moving. It's that you're learning that grit here in the program to persevere, because I really like how y'all said that. You've made it. You're persevering. You're still moving. You're still going to be successful in the program. And every person who's gone through OT school, I promise you, has a story of a picture. Whether that story of their picture is written down in a complaint letter, whether that story of their picture is written down in something like this, or is how many times did they go running in a month to get their stress out How many times did they complain to a program director? How many times did they complain to an academic advisor? How many times did they complain to a parent? You know, everybody has their story. It's that perseverance and that getting through that gets you there. But the fact that y'all were able to do this and express yourself is a good thing. That you're able to talk about it. Okay? So good job. Any questions? Any comments? Any concerns about the group?
I thought it was interesting how no one put money.
I am so. That's what I thought you were going to talk about with this big green. I honestly thought that's what this big green was.
That would have been the one thing I would have
right
added if I
here.
could go back, you know, but I was, no one said it.
Okay.
But happens.
Yes, that's honestly what I
Probably
thought
all still in
was
this
going to be. Because I thought the green was bigger than everything
Yeah,
else.
that's fine.
So I thought that's what the green was going to be. All right, well, thank you all for coming. Thank you all for sharing.
Thank you.
Hi, Mom. It's so sweet.
Okay, all right, so back to the table. Everybody who was writing soap notes, I hope you know who you were writing on. Activity analysis people, I hope you know you wrote some notes so that you can complete your activity analysis. I'm so excited.
Traded.
So I'm
Traded.
gonna throw out, we haven't gotten to the leadership pieces yet, but I'm gonna throw out some questions. 3 main types of leadership style. There's facilitative, directive, and advisory. Which one do you think I was?
Facilitated.
Advisory. Which one was I for the first one?
Facilitated.
Why do you think it was different, and why do you think, what are the characteristics that you saw in that group that made it advisory?
You were very hands-on.
Oh, I stepped back. Did I only step back, or did I step all the way away? I stepped all the way away.
You were available for questionings, so. Like, I asked how much time I had left. I think he had told me.
Mm-hmm. Very good. What else?
You put all the materials out on the table and had to go and get them.
Yeah, you had to get your own stuff. I just provided it. You had to figure out how you were going to use it, who was going to use it, who was going to distribute the paper towels, if somebody was going to distribute it, or if everybody was going to come together and get your own paper towel. Right? I gave you a plan, and then you all ran with it and did what you want. Okay? How did I manipulate the group? What are some of the things that you think I did to manipulate the group?
You gave them a topic.
I did. How did I give them that topic, though?
You just told them to express how they felt about the program. So kind of their leeway of what they wanted to say, however you just kind of spark that
Open-ended.
interest.
So let's go a little bit deeper into exactly what I said. Exactly how I said it. Because this is where you go into how do you get your patients to do what you want them to do? How did I say it? Say again. What was the first thing I said? Say again. You said it.
Concern.
I first
Frustrations.
said frustrations, concerns, and issues.
Yeah, there was like 3 bad things, and then I didn't hear the end a good thing until
Because I didn't say it.
Okay. I was like, oh, end a good thing? 'Cause-
And then you said, can we put any positives? I waited for you all to say it.
Okay.
Because if I had started by saying, tell me all the things you like about the program. And then if you want to, you can put some concerns. You can put some negatives. What do you think would have happened to those pictures?
It would have been a lot more positive.
It would have been a big thing of positives, and then the seesaw would have been over here. The clock would have been up here in the corner.
And I also think they would have been more talkative. I think when you said concerns and frustrations, everybody kind of serious mode, like, oh, I gotta think about this and what I'm gonna do, how I'm gonna put this on, we're not draw this out. Versus if it would have been more positive, I think they would have kept the conversation going. And
So let me tell you what else happens with that. I don't work full time for the MOT program, right? Do y'all know that?
We do now.
But who in here does? If she wasn't in here, and if you had another adjunct in here that wasn't me, that wasn't full-time at Trinity, do you think your responses would have been different?
If I knew that. Like, I was like oblivious to that, so. So yeah, probably though.
It would have been, because you all had a little bit of trepidation. So do you feel like you fully expressed yourself?
I was looking for Dr. Holly. I kept looking, is he here? Is he not here?
There's a microphone set up.
I know as soon as we're getting recorded.
Right.
So it's all like,
He's behind that
You have
mirror.
to think about that when you're choosing your topics. I do this activity with every time I teach this course, whether it's the MOT program or the OTA program. I do this. Now with my patients, how do you think you can change this with a group of community people?
You have someone else facilitate the program you just did right there, like
Okay. And what topics would you use? But yes, you can have somebody else do it, but what topics could you do with community members?
Fears.
interests,
Interests, okay.
roles.
Anger. Anger about what? Because that is exactly how I do it. But what do you think I choose anger and fear of when I do this in the community? Think about people's roles outside of just being students. Think about your roles outside of being students. I've worked community-based mental health in Southeast DC, and I've worked inpatient acute care in Southeast DC. I've also worked with Soldier Family Assistance Center in Germany, and Soldier Family Assistance Center at Fort Belvoir, Virginia. And I do this activity with them. What do you think some of their roles are? What do you think some of their fears are? What do you think some of their concerns are? What do you think some of their anger is? Parenting. I will say, show me a picture of your parenting. Show me a fear of show me a picture of your fear in parenting. And then I'll also say now, do you have any positives with being a parent? What brings you joy in being a parent? And usually I'll have them cut the paper and do a different side to each. Now we're modifying the same task. It's water. Can you go look and see if that's water? I know you don't want to go back there. I'm sorry. I'll go back there.
No, it's still falling out of that hole. I'm scared.
Okay, don't worry about it. Okay, so that's another one. Keep going. Parenting. Very specific. Yes, I definitely do parenting. What else? Spouses. What kind of spouses? Military spouses. Absolutely. Tell me about your fears as a military spouse. Tell me about your concerns as a military spouse. Because who else is a military spouse in here? You are, aren't you? So what do you are? So tell me what it's like to be a military spouse. You always get to express emotion? You always get to express emotion?
No, you have to be kind of, anytime I'm around that area, you kind of just think they.
You're there, and you're in the moment, and you're doing your thing. Right? You're in character. So I say, this is your opportunity to express yourself. But do we like being military spouses? Yes. No. It's okay. I love being a military spouse. I wouldn't change it for the world. But it definitely has its stresses on a regular basis. So, but we always don't get to express those. So I give people a platform to do that. And usually with my military spouses, it's not that little tiny little piece of paper. It's huge. And they're doing the same thing. Okay. What else? Other roles?
Worker.
A worker, an employee, absolutely.
Sibling.
A sibling, very good. A caregiver, absolutely. So when I've been up at Walter Reed, I've done it for caregivers as well. Just put it all out there. This is your moment that you're not taking care of anybody else except yourself. Express it. And with them, most of the activity is not the actual activity itself, it's the discussion.
Mm-hmm.
And we actually do a lot of discussion while they're doing the activity. And it does change people's pictures. It does change what they're doing. while they're in the middle of doing it. What else?
Child.
Hot child, absolutely. Don't work with kids, but yes, you could do that.
Or even just being an adult child, like being a child to my parents.
Yes,
you know?
absolutely. Yes. Because that is a role. And especially when you're part of that sandwich generation where you're taking care of kids, but then you're also taking care of parents. Absolutely. Absolutely. So the reason I'm asking you that is because I want you to think about each one of these activities that we've done today and how can you use it for a different demographic. Don't think that one activity is only used for that one thing, but it can be used for multiple demographics. It can be used for multiple different situations. Because you're OT practitioners, at least you will be, you should be able to adapt and modify stuff. Activity analysis. Yes? No?
Yeah.
Maybe. And activity analysis is not just breaking down the physical performance skills and modifying the physical performance skills, but it's also modifying those processing skills, modifying those social interaction skills, providing that just right challenge. The words that I use helped you to guide you into the direction that I wanted you to go. And if I hadn't done that, you would have gone in a different direction, right? Yes? No? Maybe? Okay. So that's part of what it takes to be a skilled practitioner in a psychosocial setting. Okay? Versus just a practitioner in a psychosocial setting. Seeing the differences a little bit? Okay, so now let's break it down. Activity analysis. What do we see? What's necessary? Okay, so we're going off of the supplies. I'm fine with that.
Equipment.
Yeah, so let's go over supplies. We need paint. Had to go to Giant last night and buy it. Let me tell you something. I ain't never buying finger paint ever again in my life. This is the first time I've ever bought finger paint. I usually just buy washable craft paint. Oh my goodness. I don't like it. What else? Needed some paper towels for sure. Poster paper. What else? I'm sorry. Cups. Table, chairs.
Workspace, yeah.
Yes, you needed some space.
Sink for cleaning.
Yeah, you definitely needed some sink or some running water or some water, period. Whether we did a bucket of water or a sink. Yeah. What else?
Fingers.
Yeah. It's hard to finger paint without fingers. Otherwise, I would have had to call it something else, right? I could have done it, but I couldn't call it finger painting. Okay. Because we know elephants can do it too, can't they?
They sure can.
What else? Anything else? In terms of supplies and equipment? Anything else?
Lighting.
Yes. What else would you change? If you were to do this, what would you have done different? Please tell me what you would have done different.
I would have had everybody separate so they weren't looking at each other.
Okay.
So they could just kind of flow on how they feel.
Okay. All right. Anything else?
I would have had like smocks or something, like maybe what do you call it? Ponchos, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So that maybe when people were doing the big black blotches on there, and they really wanted to like slam their hand down on it and get the point across. They were able to do that.
Okay. All right. So we're getting a little bit more of that psychodynamic stress out. Okay. What else?
Like little holders for the paint that people use, so there's not just like a big blob that is going on the paper, but like they're able to like have it on a separate, organizer, and then they're able to
Like an easel or not?
You're
A
real
palette.
in it. Yes. I've done it that way before too. Yeah.
I know we're not talking about the other activity, but I would have switched the dynamic. Like I would have had this activity on the floor and the other activity on the table.
Wow. Okay. Why?
I felt like it would give them more, like kind of like with Dave just said, give them more opportunity to really dig in and express themselves. Because finger paint it's not a neat thing, it's a messy thing, and you want to have that space and that, that comfortability. When you're on the table, everybody's like, can you pass me the cup? I'm gonna put some in the cup. I'm trying to be neat and nice. And but if you're on the floor, it's just kind of like you have more space, and then you can space out, like someone said, so you're not looking at each other, trying to guide, but you're still being social, but it's just more space.
Okay.
At the same time, though, it was kind of easier to be able to stand when I was doing it because the paper was a little bit big. So if you were to sit down, it would be hard to kneel over and try to get it.
Okay. What do you think about if everybody had their own table? Even if they were still together, you had your own table to spread out. No, I mean, you would be together, but there would be more tables. Like instead of, what is that, 3 tables, it would be more like 6 tables. And they would be lined up. I don't know. I'm just saying. It's an option.
I agree. In the United States, I felt like there was a lot.
Okay. All right. Anybody else? How would you change it? What about a tablecloth?
I would have included an example, like you brought one that was done before, that already showed a lot more negative things than positive. Because I think when I was watching, people started off a little bit more positive, and then they were looking at other people's papers, and once they saw the big dark blotches in there and the seesaw and the time, then they said, okay, I can do this now. So you would have showed that beforehand, maybe they would have already thought, okay, it's okay for me to put that on.
Okay, so let's build on that a little bit. So let's think about that dynamic in a group. Most of my groups have been 10 to 30 people that I'm doing this in a group of. How do you all learn about groupthink?
Yeah.
And what do you think that dynamic has an effect on this? Because if nobody did any negative, do you think that would have triggered anybody else to do anything negative?
Some people might have if they really want to get it out, but for ones that were still hesitant to express that, it would have helped them.
That hesitation there, yeah.
I think with groupthink, there can be some societal pressure. So if you're like the only one who's doing something negative, you're like, I don't want to be ostracized and look like a crazy negative person and everybody's doing something positive.
Or what is going to be the negative blowback on me if I'm the only one who's putting something negative on here and nobody else is? And everybody else is talking about that positive. Well, what happens when I do say something specific in a negative fashion about something or something particular?
I feel like that also has an impact on like wanting to say something first or not. Like if the first person might like not have expressed like how they felt as like candidly as they did, everyone else also might have been like way more reserved.
Yeah, I agree. Because there are 2 pieces to this project, right? There's the actual artwork, then you got to talk about it. Because you can put a piece of art down there. He could have had the clock, and he could have had the seesaw, and he could have had NBCOT, and you've had all these question marks. But I don't know what that means until you express it verbally and tell me what that means. And it goes back to if the first person hadn't said anything or nobody had said anything, would you have made your question marks different than what was in your head? Would you made your seesaw different than what was in your head? Right? So it's your job as that OT practitioner to try to kind of feel out what people are saying. And that's not a black and white answer. That's not a textbook answer. I can't give you that textbook answer. That is experience. And that is that therapeutic use of self. It was also in the OTPF that you had to read about, right? The therapeutic use of self. Remember, I talked to you about flexibility, empathy, clinical judgment being very key in this practice setting. You have to be able to go with the flow and then make the flow go in the direction that you want it to. Yes.
Like even when people were expressing like the negative things as the leader, like you didn't react to them and you didn't like challenge them. It was more like you were just being an active listener as opposed to like trying to like argue.
I wasn't confrontational. I was giving you the space, and then my probing was more truly a questioning probing to get a little bit deeper into what your thoughts were versus, again, like you said, that confrontation piece, right? What else?
It seemed like they all were kind of going in the direction, but were you actually observing to see, are they writing negative things? And if you would have felt like they were all writing positive things, would you have probed and said?
Absolutely. Did you hear how I probed Carol?
Not that I can recall exactly.
Anybody listen to how I probed Carol?
Like how you look at her negative color. It was really you asked her to like pull something specific that was negative.
Oh.
And then when she still wasn't
Yeah.
giving it to you, or like wasn't giving a response right away, you kind of was like, I'm still going to ask you about a positive one too, because I want you to just pull things out here. And you just kind of laid it out that you weren't forcing the negative. You were just like, I'm on both sides, and I just want you to pull out from your pain thing.
And then she didn't give anything specific still, but then did I keep going? No, because I realized that's not what her comfort zone was. So that's when I pull back. Okay, I turned that off, didn't I? Okay, because again, you've got to be that flexible. You've got to use that clinical judgment and realize from a perspective of what is going too far. And it does take experience, but it does take understanding people and empathizing with people and knowing the situation that you're in as well. Okay? And using that, again, therapeutic use of self. Knowing yourself and knowing other people. Okay? All right, any questions? All right, so let's break down Cole's 7 steps, or are we taking a break and then breaking down Cole's 7 steps?
Quicker.
Break. Okay, good. All right. Okay, so 2, I'm sorry, 3, let's take a long, let's do 3:30, just because we're going to take another long break after, okay?
Oh,